For today's review, we are looking at Batman from the Black Adam Page Punchers wave, and since we already know Batman's origin story, I'm not going to reread the same information that is on this data profile card, so we're going to just skip this and jump straight into the accessories. And when it comes to the accessories that are included with this Batman figure, all you get is a single Batarang. Now, when it comes to the sculpt of this Batarang, it does match the design of this Batman in terms of what he looks like and all the aesthetics, so I do like that. But this is not even the bare minimum of accessories. This is even less than that. It would have been nice if he had some interchangeable hands, a few more of these batarangs, and even his grapple launcher. I'm just saying, there's room for more accessories in this box. But for some reason, Mcfarlane's like, you know what? All you need is just a single batarang, and that's all you get. And this has been a running issue with the DC Multiverse line in general, is the accessories. Sometimes they come with more, sometimes they come with less, and sometimes they come with zero. So yeah. Okay. And of course, you do get the DC figure stand, which is always given with these figures, so this is not an accessory that I would include. And there's that. And since this is a Page Punchers, you do get, of course, the comic book. And it is the same exact comic book that we have seen with the last two figures. Same cover art, same story, everything is the same. So there is the comic book that is included with this figure. And now, let's talk about the aesthetics of this Batman figure. And, you know, some of you probably might recognize this design because we recently just saw a Batman figure released not that long ago looking just like this. Same body buck, just a few little changes, I suppose. It's the Noel Batman figure if you haven't seen that. So basically what they did with the Noel Batman figure is that they took the same body buck, like everything here, like all the designs, and just reused it, and they gave it a cloth-wired cape. Now, in terms of the head sculpt, I don't know if it's a different head sculpt or the same exact one. I haven't looked exactly close to it because I don't have the figure. But yeah, that's pretty much the differences between this one and that one. So the body buck for that figure came from this Page Puncher Batman figure. So yeah, that's the whole thing with that. And I don't blame them for reusing this body buck because, as you can see, when it comes to the sculpt details, this guy is packing with a lot of sculpt details for his suit, and it looks really cool. So, even though, there's always a problem with this line where there's just too many Batman figures, sometimes some of them do stand out, and this guy, to me, stood out from the bunches of Batman figures that we have gotten over the past couple years, because when Mcfarlane does put in the effort to actually make a Batman figure look good in terms of the sculpt details and everything, well, they don't ever fail with that. So this guy's a good example. So let's start with his head sculpt. So as you can see, he's a very, rugged looking Batman, I guess. Like, it just seems like he's in the middle of his life, I guess, in terms of age here. He looks like an older Batman. That's just what this head sculpt gives off when it comes to vibes. But you can see how, like, even his costume, like, everything he's wearing is just very geared up with, like, armor and just overprotective sort of layers here. Like, the shoulder armor, his bat emblem is, like, three-dimensional. He has, like, all these armor paddings for his stomach area. He's just fully geared out, like he's ready to go fighting somebody that's, like, stronger than him or something. Like, whatever he's facing, right? And even the belt down here has really nice details to it, which is actually really cool, right? Like, you have the emblem right there, you got all these pockets, and they all go to the backside. And instead of just, like, leaving this part, like, blank, because sometimes they just stop the pouches around, like, the edges here, it wraps all the way around. Like, you have pockets all the way to the back center part of the belt. So that's really cool. And when it comes to this costume design, when you look closer at it, it looks like, it's using some sort of leather material of some kind. Like, you can see those little dotted lines there. That's supposed to be, like, a reference to, like, leather sort of material. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's spandex. I don't think this suit is like a spandex sort of material. So I really like all these little tiny little, like, dotted lines that are just there to give you the sense that this is made out of some sort of different material that's not spandex, right? And that is the cool part. Now, you can see the same thing going on up here with the arms. And then for his gauntlets, he has like these sharp blades here for the, the part where he blocks the sword hits. And then going down to his boots, he's wearing actual freaking boots. Now, these are not like armorized boots that you would see with Batman's costume sometimes. This is more like a military grade boot. And that's the whole thing. This suit feels like a military graded like Batman suit. Like that's what he's wearing compared to like the usual bat suit that we see him in. So that's an interesting choice. And then for his cape, which of course is a plastic sculpted cape, look at the back part here with all these details, right? Like it's just, I like the way it looks. It looks like it's trying to be some sort of real material that you would picture Batman to use. Now, I'm not sure what this cape can do. Can it be like a hang glider for him or something? I don't know, but it does have this really nice sort of sculpt to it. It is very glossy in terms of the paint, but I think it works in this sense because it's supposed to be this sort of material that is not just the usual like fabric cloth looking cape that he always has in his costume. And then for his hands, you can see that there are these like knuckle parts right there that are meant for like punching people, right? It's like this sort of like metal part here. Brass knuckles, like built-in brass knuckles, that's the right term. So that's what that looks like to me. And yeah, that is basically the overall aesthetics of this Batman figure. It is very decked out in, sculpt details for this particular costume that he's wearing. And I think they did a really good job here. So that's why I can understand why they reused this body buck for the Noel Batman figure, because I think the costume design in that comic book actually looks similar to this. So that's probably the reason. I've never read that comic, so I don't exactly know. But, reusing a body buck like this, yeah, I don't blame him. So there is that. And now let's talk about the articulation of this figure. So even though he is a very nice looking Batman figure, he does have his issues when it comes to articulation. So I want to start with his arms, because these shoulder parts right here, they are not connected to the top part of his like torso here. These are for his arms, right? The upper shoulder parts. So if you're trying to lift this arm up, you're not going to be able to lift it up at all, because this is hindering any sort of articulation for the arm here. Now, if you swing them outward, you can, like that's not a problem. Swinging up, that's as high as it goes. Swinging back, that's as far as it goes because the cape is going to get in the way. But doing any sort of movement like this, yeah, that's as much as it's going to move. So that is not great. He does have bicep swivel in the arms. They do move. They're very tight on my copy because I don't really pose this guy too much, mainly because of the fact that, articulation for this guy is hindered by quite a few things. So that moves. He does have the double jointed articulation right there with his arms. They're quite tight in terms of the articulation. He does have swivel with his hands and wrist articulation. So there's that. And that is the arm. For his head sculpt, he can look up. So that's pretty good. He can look down. Nope, he cannot look down at all. So that is not great. He can turn his head left and right. He can tilt his head side to side, kinda. As you can see, it's very limited. So the articulation for the head sculpt is decent, but not great either. Now, for his upper torso, does it move? I haven't articulated this figure in a while. Okay, it does not want to move. It's very stiff. Now, I have never heated this figure before, so maybe this is like just my figure that has this problems, but it should be able to rotate, right? Like that, it should work. As you can see, it can rotate a little bit. I could probably free it up if I heat it up. And for the bottom part where his waist rotation is, that moves as well, so there's no problems. Also, let's see if it can lean forward. No, it cannot lean forward. He cannot lean. Can he lean back? He can lean back a little bit, kinda, but leaning forward is not possible with this guy. So, okay, for the legs, let's see if we can spread them out. He can do a pretty decent split, kinda, not too bad. In terms of a forward kick, Well, that's a surprise. You can actually kick out pretty good. Well, not like all the way up, but like that's still pretty decent for a kick here. I thought the part up here would actually hinder his legs from actually kicking out any more. So, okay, that's good. He does have double jointed in his legs, and he also has articulation in his feet, swivel, and toe articulation. And for his thigh swivels, do they work? No, they do not work. They are stiff. Okay, so they don't work on this figure. But I'm pretty sure if you heat it up or do some modifications, you will probably be able to loosen that. So that is pretty much all the articulation for this Batman figure. It is decent, I suppose. I wouldn't say it's the best in terms of articulation. There's a lot of things that are hindering this figure from doing any sort of good action poses. So yeah. All right, it's time for some comparisons, but before I do that, actually, let me just show what he looks like holding this Batarang in his hand. So all you do is you just put it in like this, very simple. Now, you can have the figure pose like he's ready to throw this Batarang, or just have him hold it like this. So yeah, that is basically what he looks like with the Batarang in his hand. And let's just put him right there on the side. And let's bring in Knuckles from Sonic 3 to start off this comparison. And as you can see, when it comes to scaling, he is taller than Knuckles, which makes sense because I think the scale works if you want to have like the Sonic characters with like a human companion, because in a movie, most of the human characters are taller than the Sonic characters, right? So yeah, there is this comparison. Now here he is next to a deluxe class Transformer from the Legacy Evolution line. This is Shadow Striker. Now, of course, this comparison is completely inaccurate in terms of scale because we all know that Transformers are taller than humans. So seeing Batman be bigger than a car here, well, she turns into a car, this is not proper, scaling. So there's that. And of course, here he is next to some of his wave mates from this wave. So there is Black Adam, and as you can see, the two of them look pretty good together in terms of their overall design. So I do like these two figures from this wave. And here he is next to John Constantine. I almost actually knocked the figure down right there. That is not great, but almost. And there he is. But yeah, Batman and John Constantine working together. That's happened before. There was a movie that came out a while ago. I think it was called Justice League Dark. So yeah, pretty good movie, by the way. All right, and that is going to do for all the comparisons for today's review. If you found today's review of this Batman figure informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content, or whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.